Welcome to the English Mystic podcast. Welcome back. Today our guest is Dr. Sharnael Wolverton Sehon, who is a captivating multidisciplinary expert who seamlessly blends naturopathic medicine, spirituality and quantum science to empower individuals on their journey to wholeness. She's the founder of True TV and author of 5 groundbreaking books, including her international bestseller, The Science of Miracles, Remembering the Frequency of Love. She works with many clients throughout the world with her remote technology and long-distance biofeedback. And she's here today to talk to us about frequency medicine and quantum wholeness. Right, so welcome to the English Mystic podcast. It's beautiful to see you there in Louisiana. I always ask people, what's the weather doing in Louisiana today?
Actually, it's super nice. It's been really nice the last few days. Probably 70, like
Well,
72.
that's
Not
good.
humid at all. Perfect few days here. Last week was storming really bad. But how about you? How is it over there?
In Devon, actually, we've got
Right.
the most beautiful weather ever. I mean, it's really, really, really cold. It's well, probably in your numbers, it's probably like 35, something like that. So it's
Oh
cold,
no.
but it's really sunny. And just outside, all the spring lambs are being born, and there's 40 spring lambs about 10 feet away from me. So you might hear them every time I open the window. They're all bouncing around, Johnny,
Oh,
and it's that joyous time, isn't it, where the weather's just becoming spring. Obviously, for us in our hemisphere, everyone else go, "Oh, we're going into my autumn." But yeah, it's beautiful time. Anyway,
it's definitely my favorite time. Yes.
yeah, it's mine too. So, welcome to the podcast, and your bio is massive, and people will be able to read it, and they'll be able to see all your beautiful links and find out about all your books and everything that you do, and you do a lot. But for me, and I'm sure my audience, we'd love to hear about the frequency medicine and the quantum wholeness, which sound amazing. So, can you give us sort of a background of who you are, how you even became this person that you are, this amazing woman, and how you actually got into these two modalities that are part of everything you understand?
Yeah, so my background actually, I did not grow up religious, but I moved to Louisiana from Montana. And well, my dad was military, so we moved everywhere. But
Right.
uh, we came from overseas to Louisiana, and a lot of people go to church here. So I was kind of introduced to like that way of life, that literally the way of life down here. It's not so much anymore, maybe. Things have changed a bit, and I think people are a little more loose and a little more drawn to spirituality.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's the path that I took for a while because as a kid, I had some things happen, and I was always really drawn to feeling like I would be in service of some kind.
Mm.
I didn't know how. But when I got here to Louisiana, um, I was like, oh, well, maybe this is the venue. Maybe I'll be in ministry. And I actually went that route and did conference speaking for a long, long time.
Mhm.
Um, the the thing that I was drawn to about the whole religion thing, which I'm not a fan now. I don't like the separation.
Yeah.
Um, I do enjoy the community, and I enjoy the, I guess, just the miracles, the supernatural part of it. And so I was just a geek about anything miraculous, supernatural, paranormal. As a child, I was like 10 years old and wrote a book on ESP. So
Oh, wow.
I just was fascinated with, intuition and, mind reading and moving spoons,
Right. Yeah.
with my mind and, that kinetic stuff and just anything like that. I was UFOs, Bigfoot, dragons, Loch Ness Monster, Stonehenge, all of it. And I lived overseas as a kid, and then I went back in college. And so there's, I think, a lot more of that kind of stuff over there just because everything is so old.
Hmm.
And there's castles and there's Loch Ness Monster in Scotland. And, so I think in some ways it may be a little more openly discussed, those type of things, but when being in ministry and doing conference speaking, I was actually on television for 3 years and did TV in North America, and just some of it was worldwide. But I got really sick
Right.
and was dealing with some health issues. And so here I am. I'm studying quantum physics. I'm studying neuroscience, all the geeky stuff with spirituality, and combining that with Jesus and the disciples and that kind of stuff. But then, and seeing a lot of people healed actually in the ministry that we were in, there was a lot of instantaneous type miraculous things that would happen. And also, a lot of paranormal type things, like things showing up out of nowhere, feathers and, you know, weird stuff, glitter and orbs. And,
Mm.
um, but I, when I started getting sick physically, I was probably sick about 7 years and went to multiple doctors trying to get healthy and set in alignment on the Western side, like a very Western model, especially coming up military. That's just normal in Western, type medical stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing technology as far as frequency or anything like that had been introduced to me up until that point. But I think I was working like 120 hours a week. I was on 6 planes a week. I was really out of balance,
Mm.
not just with my work load, but also my diet was really messed up, and just stress, probably radiation from being on planes like that. There's a multiple aspects that were happening, as well as wasn't in the best partnership situation. And so there was a lot of stress going on with that. And it was kind of like just a shitstorm of things, really. So in the process of that, I was teaching a course on dreams and visions
Mm.
in another state here in the States. And um, a lady saw like all my medicine I was taking. I had like a suitcase of 30
Imagine.
something pills. Yeah. It was just, oh, I'm on this for that and this for that, and side effects for all the things. And she introduced me to a doctor there who was in all of this frequency medicine. And he's actually an MD, but he takes a very naturopathic approach.
Mm.
And he's actually still to this day a pastor. So that for me, like I had not seen, like I don't know if I had seen a person put it together the way I had seen the relationship of spirituality and science, but
Mm-hmm.
I had not yet like seen it applied in a medical field type situation, where more I was waiting on God to do all these things, like this outside person, um, to see these healings. And what we were seeing is maybe something would happen, and I believe it's frequency. Even with religion and spirituality, I believe even those type of healings are actual frequency through our bodies, through Reiki, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it, because God is energy. But I started to really see about how our DNA and our bodies were could be just as powerful as anything on the outside, and that it wasn't waiting for this person in the sky to do something for us. It was us, feet on the ground, who were doing things. And if we weren't anchoring it with new habits,
Mm-hmm.
then people lost whatever they got in the first place, just because they would go back to eating whatever they were doing, and all of that. So there was some application involved and some steps and like some groundwork, of what people have the opportunity to choose every day. But then just this whole frequency thing was really interesting. I had not seen some of the machines that he had. He had like beamers and lasers and PEMF and infrared sauna. And I mean, I kind of knew about saunas, but I thought it was more like spa, having like a girl spa day. And I never really thought about, how it affects our mitochondria and, how you sweat to detox and, those kind of things that are just normal. But so yeah, I ended up getting some help with him finally, and was able to use frequency to get myself back through using a lot of these tools, but especially essential oils. That was probably the top thing,
Yeah.
and crystals with the medicine. As far as a lot of these technologies all involve crystals, which again, that was taboo for me in the religion that I was in. Even essential oils, people were like, "Oh my gosh, you're leaving the ministry, you're a witch," name calling. Like, it was just really strange. It's like, this is in the Bible, actually. And I would find all the stuff with crystals and all the stuff with essential oils. Everything's it's like right there. There's 1,600 scripture references to essential oils in the
Oh,
Bible.
wow. Wow.
So it's like, okay, how is this witchcraft? Which is also funny because pharmaceuticals, pharma actually comes from pharmakia, which actually means witchcraft. So it's like, which one's actually witchcraft? Um, but I got myself better, with this frequency method. And I ended up having several dreams about going back to school. And I never really saw myself going back to school to be a doctor in medical, anything. I thought if I did go back to school, I would be like in divinity or some theology or religious ed or something. Because I had always wanted to be a doctor of education, and it ended up I went back to school to go to the medical field instead. Um and yeah, so I've been kind of on that journey now. I'm not just, I call it like a lavender lightning approach. I like the lavender. I like, all the, when I say lavender, kind of across the board, anything herbal, anything natural diet, walking, sunshine, grounding, all the things,
Yeah.
juicing. And then lightning is anything Tesla, electricity, all the fun things with that. Because we are electric, as you know. I mean,
Yeah.
you're the guy, you're a master in the Reiki stuff. And we are 67 megahertz on a healthy adult day. And when that drops,
Yeah.
we open ourselves up to, things getting sick and running down, cancel clear. And when we're up above 67%, we can like walk through the plague and nothing will touch us. So
True. Yeah.
it's about keeping that frequency up. And I know you know all of that, but I'm just saying how I kind of got here. But yeah.
That's beautiful. And I love the fact that you're bringing what is maybe ancient technology and new technology together. And that's what we need. That's how we move forward, isn't it? Because yeah, we still, some people go, oh no, it's all the old technology and anything new is taboo. But you need the two together. If someone's got cancer, then giving them lots of beautiful Reiki to help them through the process, but also giving them the chemo or whatever it is, that those two together make it an easier journey. And I've seen that with friends and relatives. And so yeah, I'm quite appalled that actually modern medicine doesn't actually bring in what is the original medicine and combine the two together. But it's coming. There's people like you that are doing it, and the person that healed you. So it proves it's happening. It just needs to become more mainstream, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I don't know how it is over there, but it's coming a lot more mainstream here now. I mean, when this happened, when I was going through this period of time, it was 2008.
Yeah,
And here we are in 2025, and there are conferences all over the place that do biohacking. And
mm,
all of these meetings and conferences, people are coming by the droves. And, there's so many machines out there for different things. I mean, there's a lot of options of different ways that we're seeing people, live longer, and not just live longer, but live longer in a healthy way,
yeah.
because it would suck, to be old and you're suffering the whole last, however many years of your life, but to be in good health, it's pretty interesting.
Mm, that's beautiful. Cool. Um, there's the word quantum wholeness. It sounds amazing, but what does it actually mean?
For me, quantum is the unseen. We have the seen in physics, and then the quantum physics is the things that are there, but we may not see them with the visual eye. Our eyes only see so much in the spectrum that we see it. And, dogs and other animals, they have a better view of things, or maybe able to see in the dark, or they see different wavelengths that we aren't seeing.
Yeah.
But just because we don't see it doesn't mean, electricity isn't going on. The 5G is still going on. All the things for television and satellite, everything, and radio waves, and all the things that are out there that affect us as a frequency. And there's other technologies that use voice to God tech, which sends things through the air literally that help makes people think they're hearing the voice of God, or their own voice that's telling them what to do. That's pretty nefarious. There's a lot of stuff that's going out there, and you can look all of that up, of
Hmm.
just CIA, voice to God tech. And then there's weather control. There's, so many different things that they're doing literally in the air that we don't see. And then there's stuff that we do see, like the chemtrails, like pretty physical. I don't know.
Yeah.
You guys don't have that probably. I don't,
We definitely do.
do you really?
Yeah, yeah. There's quite
Oh,
that's another big rabbit hole, but yeah, there's quite a few people over here that track the planes, and then you're like, oh, it's like this plane isn't a normal scheduled one, and then it does a funny pattern of backwards and forwards, like it's ploughing a field. You're like, strange. And next day the weather's different.
oh, wow. I didn't know it was over there too. I knew we had this mess. It was crazy, but yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff that goes on, isn't there? That you can another time maybe we talk about
Yes.
that. So you've got this quantum wholeness and you've got this frequency medicine. How do they work together, and how do you work with them?
Yeah. Well, with our body being 67 megahertz,
Hmm.
I had mentioned when we drop, that's a problem. And if we
Yeah.
can be at a higher frequency, then we are superhuman. I mean, and actually, we're not superhuman. We're doing what we're supposed to do as a
Yeah.
human,
Yeah.
because the supernatural shouldn't be extra. It's just normal
Hmm.
when when we are walking in that. And so using things like the frequency machines, whether it's like laser, PMF, ozone therapy, hyperbaric chamber, anything that's going to flood the body with oxygen, that is going to be a bonus. Those are good things. That will help the body just charge literally,
Yeah.
um, at the cellular level. And so when we use that frequency to flood the body with a charge, and we can keep above that 67, and then grounding is really important too, because we have our biofield usually around 4 to 5 feet.
Hmm.
The earth has its biofield, which is the Schumann, which has been crazy. I don't know if you've been tracking the Schumann the last few days. We had a blackout for like almost 60 hours, which
Yeah.
means something's going on to spike the frequency of the actual Earth, which
Yeah.
again affects us.
Hmm.
Um, I know we had a solar flare that was part of it, but who knows what else is going on. We can track the Schumann by all these machines they have in different parts of the world. And we didn't even really know any of that was happening, or that our own feelings as humans, as humanity, could change the frequency of the earth until actually OJ Simpson had his little roundabout, and all of a sudden these machines went nutso. That was like one of the first times that they had everything in place and saw that something was going on the earth. And what was happening is media, for the first time, all centered in on this one incident that was happening, and the world was watching, and the
Hmm.
world had a feeling physical response to what they were watching. And in unison, it actually disrupted and or raised the frequency of shook the world literally.
Yep.
So that happened, and then there's been things like Princess Diana's wedding, Princess Diana's passing, 9/11. Different things have proven over and over how that Schumann can be affected by our feelings.
Yeah.
And so our field is affected, but then there's this collective consciousness field where really there's no separation between me or you, even though you're all the way over there and I'm right here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just using things that can build that frequency and or anchor our frequency. So like even with essential oils, if I'm 7 on a healthy day, there are essential oils that could be like 98 megahertz or 157 megahertz or 320 megahertz that are going to boost us so we don't get low and have the complications. Music, color therapy, there's other, physical things, foods all have frequency. Just being by the water is really helpful, or
Yeah.
going out in nature at all, mountains, fresh air. There's a lot of information within nature that is coding that helps us on a frequency level. If you've ever studied Emoto and like the whole water thing, and then
Yeah.
also there's stuff in the plants. I've studied a lot about how plants do different things, how they're alive, how they have feelings, how they have their own biofield, that they get sad with their other plant is dying, just
Yeah.
there's a lot to what we haven't been taught, as kids. For me anyway, I wasn't taught this. It's fun to like learn about all the frequency and how it helps us.
It's all interconnected, isn't it? Because that for me, nature is the thing that raises my frequency, and I've not been thinking that I'm at a certain frequencies, but there are days where my frequency feels a lot lower, and I find that if I walk into nature, and I love trees, and I love oak trees, and there's nothing better than just sitting under an oak tree, leaning against it, and just almost like feeling that it's sap moving slowly, and that just re-energizes me, and I'm sure its energy is coming into mine and modulating my frequency. So yeah, lots of times people go, oh, you need to get this Wraith machine, and need to do this, you need to go and get the red light thing, but actually a lot of times it's already around us, isn't it? And we don't. The modern technology is beautiful, but you've got nature, like you say, water laying in the salty sea. I just love doing it, just laying on my back, floating, and that just raises my vibration. And then if I can't get to the sea, then I'll go and use one of them isolation tanks, which is equivalent sort of thing. So you decide which one works for you, don't you? It's cool.
Yeah, are you talking about like float tank?
Yeah, like float tanks. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we call them isolation tanks. So they're literally they've got that really salty water that you can't sink in, and then it all goes black. Or you can have some lights and music or whatever you prefer. I like it when it's just all I can hear is my heartbeat and hear my breathing. First time I was like, "What's that noise?" I was like, "Oh, it's my heartbeat." It's like being in the womb almost, and I find that just so relaxing.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of magic to float tanks. Like there's
Yeah.
people who went into float tanks. I've heard stories of like a woman who was a prostitute who was like a meth head for 12 years or something. She goes in there and like 10, 20 minutes in there and she completely walks away, never does meth again. Walks away from prostitute, like completely, like had an experience or an encounter that just shifted everything. People quit smoking.
Mm,
People like, like it's insane the stories I've heard from float tank. I've
yeah.
done it a few times, and I do remember we there's some pretty cool things. But there's a show here in the States. I think it was 60 Minutes or Dateline. I don't remember. They're kind of the same. But there was a guy who went to float tank because he was going to disprove it. And he was saying how dumb it was, and he was just really being bad mouthing it. And he goes in there to like make everyone wrong, And he went in there and they filmed, and they must have had a light somehow that was like see in the dark, and you could see he was just sitting there, and then all of a sudden his eyes like pop open and he's like darting back and forth, and you could see his eyes and like tears are coming down. And when he came out, they were like trying to film him, and he was like, don't, don't film me. And later he explained that he saw his childhood home, and that he was in his living room, and he saw his dad for whatever, who had passed, and his dad came and like said all these like really deep, like powerful, important things to him, that like kind of like a mediumship kind of deal or something, like spoke to his heart,
Mm,
that of some things that have hadn't happened recent, that it was like, how would you know that unless you're like watching me? And it was just this big huge thing. And he basically was like, okay, never mind. And it was like, just it turned into, then he went and interviewed all these people and explained their stories. And yeah, I love Float Tank. That's a
yeah,
big tool.
it's powerful because it takes you out of the environment where you've got so much stimulation. We're all on social media, listening to radio, watching this, watching that, aren't we? And it's just you. And how often is it just you with you? Even meditation, you're sitting on a cushion and you get a bit uncomfortable, don't you? But in that, it's, I mean, I remember I fell asleep. They said, you can fall asleep. I was like, I won't fall asleep. I think I'll drown. And after about 10 minutes, I fell asleep. And I woke up, like, oh. But you're completely floating. For me, it was like, I feel like I'm in the womb. I can imagine when I was, minus 9 months or whatever, and I just been just there. It's what it'd be, you'd hear your mother's heartbeat, wouldn't you? That's what I imagined it to be. And I just found it so
Oh, wow.
relaxing. It was beautiful. Yeah. So I can
I never
imagine
thought
people
of it
would.
as being a womb. That's pretty interesting. I just know because something happens in the brain, because you don't hear anything unless it's your heart.
Yeah.
You're not touching anything.
Yeah.
And they say not to even wear clothes, because if the clothes touches you or like moves with the water, then it can like wake you up. But
Yeah.
so all the energy that's normally going towards touch, temperature, all
Mm.
everything with stimuli, it goes to different parts of the body, because you're not having to exhaust any energy for these other things that you
Yeah.
normally would. And then people go inward, and it does something to the brain chemistry and the third eye, and people just have these major experiences.
Yeah. Highly recommend to everyone. So go out and find yourself one. They're in all towns, aren't they? In cities. So one of the other things is I love crystals, and you talked about crystals. Um, are there some crystals that people out there should hold maybe when they are feeling like their energy is a little bit low? And is there some sort of aromas that they could put with that? Like for myself, I've got a crystal. It's I've got loads, but on the day I go, oh, that one looks powerful, and then normally I have something like I'll find some incense. I've got about 50 of them, and again on the day it's just like, oh, which one? And I'll put a little bit on my wrist, and I normally just hold the crystal on my wrist, and it's like, come on, energy, just let's. I know last night was a bad night's sleep, and yesterday wasn't a good day, but today we're having a good start. Is there something you could recommend to all those beautiful people out there that may be feeling a bit low? It's like, if you got this one and that one, they're a good combination.
Yes, and actually, I looked when I first started looking into essential oils. I had a lot of reference guides, and then I started seeing that there were some crystals that would pop up when I would do research that
Mhm.
worked good with this one or good with that one.
Yep.
And so I tried to find like a reference guide that showed, oh, if I use this oil, what crystal should I use? And I couldn't find anything. I found a lot of crystal
Hmm.
reference guides and a lot of oil crystal guides, but not anything that
Yeah, the
viewed them
crosses it.
together. So I've actually made a card deck that has
Ah,
all of that. So it has like the crystal on the front, and then
yep.
on the back, it'll tell you everything that the crystal does. And then it
Oh,
gives you
beautiful.
4 companion oils of the top, the crop oils that
Yep.
will go with that crystal the best. I was going to make a book, but what I really liked about this is I kind of accidentally on purpose found out that the cards carry the same frequency as the actual crystal in your hand.
Yeah.
We would test people with the crystal, and they would be strong. We would remove it, and then they would go weak. I would give them a picture of the crystal and hold it, and it would do the same thing as if the crystal was in their hand.
Wow.
So instead of doing a full book that would have a lot of frequency in one book with all the images, we broke it up to be able to take a card with you in the car for the day, or in your bag or your backpack or your lunchbox, or stick it in your kids' bag for the day when they go off to school, put it
Yeah.
under your pillow for the night, or put it under your mattress, or maybe put it in the baby stroller or the dog bed, or even putting them in plant pots.
Yeah.
So they work with the with the plants, or the animals. So
Cool.
it
So
was
how many cards in that deck?
there are 80 cards in here,
Oh
and
wow.
they do explain, like I said, the physical and the side benefits of
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
different things. And then they also have the companion oils. And then I also put on there a decree. So a frequency, because our voice is frequency one way or another. And when we
Yeah.
say certain things with conscious language, we can also bring that. So it's like a three powerful punch of anchoring in, a really high vibe into the field. Um, and you don't have to carry a bunch of crystals around if you're traveling. My husband
Yeah.
was very, very thankful. He was like, "Can we just bring the card deck instead of the 99 crystals that you want to travel with this
Yeah.
week?" So
They,
that's
they can weigh a lot, can't they? I remember going through customs once with loads of crystals, and they look at you like, what are these? What? And you're trying to explain to them. Yeah, as you say, a card deck's so much easier. Okay, well, I'm definitely going to buy that card deck, and I'm sure that's on your website somewhere. So if
yes,
people are
it is.
interested, they can
Yes, sir.
find it. I think you do a whole package, don't you? There's each of your books, and then the whole set of cards. So
Yeah, and you can actually even like charge your water or your tea or whatever by sticking your drink on
underneath,
top of it
yeah,
and
which
then
you,
drinking it, and so it'll charge what you're drinking.
mm,
Um, there's a lot of different ways people are using them in Reiki and or massage therapy. So when they work with the person, they'll have them pick a card,
yeah,
and they'll put it on their massage table while they're being worked on, or in the field while the Reiki person's working on them, or maybe while
yeah,
they're getting PMF or hyperbaric chamber. Or
mm,
there's, yeah, my doctor that I was telling you about, he started working with the cards in his office, and he's seeing a lot of really good results. And so there's several people now, practitioners are using them all over, but not just moms and whatever. It's a great way to learn about the oils and learn about the crystals as well. If you're just, a
yeah.
geek like me and you want to know what they all do, but that you can use them as a tool as well, so it's cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, 'cause I've got a crystal book, and I've got all the aromatherapy books, and like you say, trying to bring the two of them together is like, well, there isn't anything. So the cards, because I love water frequency. Like you were talking about the Japanese guy, and he freezes it, and it's got a certain look to it. And I do that a lot. I always boil all my water. I put it into copper, and then I bless it with Reiki and shamanic energy, and then I'll give it to the plants. And I did an experiment one where I just gave it normal tap water, another one I gave it the beautiful water, and the difference between them, like the one that had all the beautiful water and grew so much bigger. I also spoke nicely to it, and the other one I didn't say much to it. And it's like you say, your voice, your frequency, it's all important, isn't it? And even like you say, words of affirmation, saying words of affirmation to yourself is huge. And sometimes people are like, well, I'm not going to say that to myself, but it's so powerful. Just looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I love you. I know there's so many people that I've said do that, and they're like, I can't do that. That's too weird, but it's not. And so frequency is beautiful. Cool. Is there anything else that you would love to share with the audience? And also, where can they find you? And what's the most exciting thing that's coming up next that you'd like to share with people?
Yeah, you can find me at drsharnel.com. And one thing I will add is I do biofeedback.
Hmm.
And I can do that remote. Like my co-host is actually in England, and I worked on him. And when the machine turned off, he literally knew within 10 minutes. He texted and said, "Hey, did you just turn the machine off?" Pretty interesting
Wow.
that we could work long distance like that. But one thing with the reports, it'll show like EMFs if they're bothering you. It'll show you if there's organ issues going on, if there's brain chemistry going on, or hormones that are going on. It'll show emotional stuff. It'll show
Mm.
chiropractic. It'll show if there's a vitamin deficiency, or if you have parasites, or if you have fungus or Lyme or any, there's, we can detect and diagnose what's going on. What's really cool is with the report that shows about electrics and how they work. If I see a report that looks clear and someone's good, the first question is, I'll say, "Do you have crystals in your house?" And they're usually a yes. And so
Mm.
crystals really do show up even on the reports that a person is in better health because of them being in the house. But yeah, you guys can find me there. My podcast is there. I have a lot of different books and workshops available. I have a lot of fun little geeky things like zappers and grounding devices, and fun things that I have myself. Neurovisors, so people can do psychedelics without having to do psychedelics, and have ozone on there. There's so many different things on there. And actually, if you go there, I just uploaded a free class. So anyone who goes in there, it'll do a little pop up and say, "Hey, if you want this free class, you can give me your email. I'll send it to you." But yeah, it's about trauma and clearing trauma,
Mm.
because I think there's a lot of people going through a lot right now. And as we clear that trauma, it gives us a better, higher frequency to be able to withstand the things that are happening and be a better version of ourselves, not just physically, but mentally and emotional. Um, you know, 86% of all physical issues are really emotional issues.
Yeah.
So if we can clear that, they call that conversion disorder, where people start having problems in their physical body because of all
Hmm.
the stress. And that was what was going on with me when I met with that doctor. He found 24 different markers on the biofeedback diagnostics. And when I started working with frequency, which I did long distance because he's in another state, I got that all the way down to 4. I got off all my meds, and I dropped 80 pounds without changing my diet at all. I just completely was using frequency. And then I was like, okay, well, if I did that without changing my diet, what would happen if I changed my diet? So it was pretty cool experience to just finally get my be me again and feel
Mm.
physically better, but also just the mental and clearing all that trauma. And we can do that long distance. So if you guys are interested, I have all that machinery now, and I can work on people.
That sounds beautiful. I think definitely I'm going to buy that for my sister because she's got fibromyalgia. We were talking beforehand, and she lives right next to a 5G tower and all the rest of it. And I'm like, So I think it'd be good to get her tested and see what's going on there. Because as I think we were talking beforehand, fibromyalgia is one of those sort of categories they put you in. They're really not sure what's going on with you. It sounds like she needs some of your quantum and frequency healing and figure out what's going on. It's
Well, that's
beautiful.
what they told me I had. They were like, "Oh, it's chronic fatigue or fibro
Mm.
or whatever." You're right. When they don't know, they kind of just throw everybody in that pile, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
For one
probably
part it was ME, now it's fibromyalgia, and yeah, I know that one. Cool. Well, it's been beautiful having you on here, and there's so much you can talk about that. I think it'd be beautiful to have you back another time, and we can dig
I would
deeper
love
into all those 5 books of yours and the rest of it. But definitely, those cards look amazing. I'm going to buy some of those, and I'm going to definitely buy my sister a session. And as you say, the energy doesn't know distance. It's there, so it doesn't matter if you're in Louisiana or New York, or if you're in England, or if you're in wherever in the world. It travels there easily, doesn't it? So, but yeah, it's beautiful. Any last words from yourself?
Yeah, I would just encourage people to live true and to get outside as much as you can, get grounded, and turn the news off. There's focus on what you can deal with, and let some of this stuff go, because I think people are really really down, and just if we let it, there's an opportunity to kind of go with that frequency and to get caught in that undercurrent of those low vibrations. And they're doing everything they can with television and all these other technologies to keep us in this like stuck holding pattern. We can break out and we can get to a higher place, and you can use things like biofeedback and other things, music, Reiki, all the stuff, to get into a higher spot. So those things aren't dragging us down literally anymore. And we're not stuck in those negative patterns. And seeing that everyone has a very distinct and diverse purpose. And we need you who are watching, and we need each other. And podcasts like this really help to bring people hope and encouragement, and go against that low well, you know what, just ride up above that frequency. And so I appreciate your service and your work, and people like you who are doing this, and just a really bright light. Thank you for letting me be with you today.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
Thank you.